please introduce yourself by sharing your name and your age?
So my name's Lisa and I'm 49 tomorrow.
Tell us about your family and what makes your family unique or special.
So I've got 6 children. They are all girls, and out of those girls, 3 of them have additional needs.
Oh, wow. How did you feel on the day that your children were diagnosed?
A relief, because initially, especially with the first one, it was, is it my parenting? Is it I'm doing something wrong? Could I have been a better parent? Could I have done this wrong, that wrong? So I was judging myself because I felt other people already judging me. And as time went on, it was very much because I was walking past other schools to get my children to nursery or to their school. As time went on, it was, that's the parent who child has done such and such. That's the child who's hurt that child. That's the mum who's got so many children she can't cope. And so yeah, I felt the wider world was judging me.
And how old are your girls?
So my youngest is 19, and then I've got um, 20 a 20-year-old that isn't with special needs. Then I have a 25-year-old whose diagnosis is Aspergers. I've got a 26-year-old whose diagnosis is ADHD, Autism, ODD, oppositional defiance disorder. And with that, she also self-harms and has severe anxiety. And then I've got a 27-year-old and I've got a 30-year-old as well.
What has been the most significant challenge you faced up to this point?
Um, Again, I think it is having the wider community understanding and going through school. Mine went through mainstream schools, and at the time, I didn't know what the additional needs were. And the first one that got diagnosed, she got diagnosed with ADHD. And even the school were like, why are you convinced it's ADHD? What do you know about ADHD? And it took my friend's 10-year-old son overhearing a conversation and saying to me and my friend, Mummy, she's got what I've got. And that kind of opened my eyes, because at that point I hadn't even heard of ADHD. So I then kind of made it my mission to look into it. What was it? How could I help her? And then I grew a passion for it because I wanted to be able to help, and I didn't just want to help my own child. I wanted to help other people's children because I felt that it's misunderstood. And there's a lot of parents that will self-diagnose their children with ADHD because they may have other needs which show in their behaviours, but it could actually be things of the environment, the home that they're living in. There was a lot of me being sent for parenting courses. The parenting courses were for mainstream children primarily. And as time went on, I was just like, I would try everything that I'm being offered, but I felt it wasn't working.
Did you feel unsupported by the school?
That particular school, my first instance, yes. I felt that they had the lack of understanding at that time. As time went on, it transpired that there was at least 3 other children in the same year group with additional needs as well. And I think, looking back on it now, the school were actually struggling to deal with all those 3 children in the same year group.
Can you share a specific memory or moment that stands out from your journey with your three daughters?
Um, it was the realization that it wasn't my fault and that there is help out there. For me, medication for one of my children with ADHD had a massive positive impact, but I know for other families it doesn't. And so I feel even now, with my daughter growing up, I mean she's 26 now, and without her medication, her behaviour is off the wall. So she needs that to kind of regulate her and keep her calm and keep her in the family environment. Otherwise, I couldn't cope with it, and nor could she.
Can you talk or speak to what it's like being a parent to an adult child with special needs?
It's harder because once they go into adult services, it's like you're told, okay, your child's got this, that diagnosis, get on with it.
Right. Do you feel, as a mother with a child with additional needs who still needs support, that you have been pushed out?
I feel that when people are saying, what do you want us to help? I ask the question, what help is there? And it always gets turned back around, what help or support do you want? I can't tell them what help and support I want because I don't know what's available.
Mm.
So I find that really tricky.
Can you describe a moment when you felt particularly challenged and how did you overcome that?
There's been times with my 26-year-old where her behaviour has been so violent. Initially, as a mum, I was dealing with it myself because I'm thinking, she's my daughter, it's my problem. So I wasn't calling the authorities. Later, because we've had social services involved and I've had positive and negative with social services, I was told, please phone the police because by doing so, you are leaving a paper trail and you will get the support. I phoned the police several times on my adult daughter, and I was told initially that they would be able to send a triage team out, which consists of, I believe, a police officer, a mental health worker, and I'm not sure there was one other person. But each time I made that call out of desperation, and it was pure desperation because I'm just like, if I don't get help now, either she's going to kill me or I'm going to really lose my temper and do something that I'm going to regret.
Mm.
And each time I made that call, even before how much the NHS and emergency services are stretched now, they weren't able to come out to me initially. Initially, it was, we're really sorry, you are our second priority, but in the minute we're dealing with a call and they would explain the severity of a previous call that they were having to go to, which took higher precedence than my call out, they would eventually come out, and it was usually a police officer. He would have a chat with my daughter, informal, but at that moment in time it worked. But the minute the police officer went, her behaviour would start and spiral all over again.
What strategies or coping mechanisms have helped you navigate the emotional ups and downs of parenting daughters with special needs?
I've found over time, if I can take myself away from the situation, for a long period of time, it wasn't easy. I was married, but my husband at the time, their dad, is also on the autistic spectrum, also has ADHD, and his way of coping with it was to take himself out of the situation altogether, which then left me not only parenting my children with the disabilities, I was still trying to parent my other children without disabilities, and the knock-on effect from that was quite extreme. And although I try and move myself into a different room in the house, my children would follow me, or the children that were being targeted by their sibling, they would feel insecure, they would feel upset and angry, and then their behaviour would spiral. So it's like a domino effect. So when you've got more than one child in the house anyway, one starts misbehaving, the next one will start. But when you've got six misbehaving, it came to many points where I would literally have a mental breakdown. I would be in tears. I would try and self-harm. I would try and literally take myself away. And it got to a point where I really felt that I was the worst mum in the world.
How do you manage the difficult days?
Now, I actually go to church, and I felt for me that worked, because for me, the people at church were my wider family. I've lived in Bedford for nearly 30 years now. When I first moved here, I only knew my husband's mum, my husband's sister, and my husband. I had no friends, no family, no connections in Bedford at all. I initially started going to a support group that was recommended by my health visitor, and then in turn got introduced to another support group which just happened to be run by church people, and that really helped me because it helped me to get out, get to know other people, and realise that I wasn't the only person in that situation. Because I think having children with additional needs and in an area that you're unfamiliar with, you feel really isolated.
Do you feel that your faith has helped you get through the darker days?
Massively. There's been times, I mean, I've had my arguments with myself where I'm just like, if you're around, God, why is this happening? And I know it's not for everyone, but for me, that was a massive part that like saved me from doing anything silly.
Are there any significant lessons that you've learned about yourself as a mother, um, being a parent of children with special needs?
I feel over the time, and it's had taken a very long time to get to this point, I feel like I am stronger and I'm also better placed to help other people that are going through the same issues. And I'd like to feel that even by doing this, they realise that actually they're not alone. And even though there's been hard times, it does get better.
Looking back on your journey with your daughters, what do you know now that you wish you knew when they were younger?
Um, well, coupled with the fact I work with children with additional needs, there's various training that I've done through my work that had I known that when my kids were young, I think that would have saved a lot of the arguments, a lot of the behaviour that I was getting from my children, because it gave me a greater understanding. So I feel the more knowledge I've got, the easier it's become.
So, do you think a lot of the courses and support you were offered were for mainstream children?
I did feel that, yes.
Right.
I tried everything that was on offer because I didn't want to go away and go, well, it's not going to work and not try. So I always made an effort to try. But yeah, I found as time went on, it made me more aware that they were different.
Right, right. Has there been any expected joys or positive surprises that have come from raising your child?
I found, especially with my youngest, she hated school, not because she didn't want to go, but it was the sense, she's got a lot of sensory issues, and just wearing school uniform. And there was no concessions for her even going into their learning support unit without her uniform on. Because in my mind, it was at least she's going to school, at least she's still getting an education. But they said to me on more than one occasion, we know your daughter's different, but we can't be seen to be treating her differently.
Have you seen a difference over the years of what's offered in terms of support?
I feel there is a bigger understanding. I feel there's a bigger understanding around professionals now. I feel that there's more diagnosis, but I believe that to be because we are better at noticing, we're better at seeing that there is a difference. And I feel within the community of people with additional needs, I feel we all support each other.
Hmm. Could you offer some advice to mothers who have children with special needs?
I would say don't feel embarrassed, don't feel ashamed. You know your child and you know you are doing your best. If people want to stand there and judge, let them.
What brings happiness to your heart when you think about your daughters?
See how much they've achieved and how far they've come. I mean, my youngest said she didn't like going to school, and after leaving school, I was just like, what does she do now? She couldn't apply for a job like a typical mainstream member of the public, but through a college course that she's now doing, she has learned not just to get on the bus from Kempston to Bedford, she's learned to get on the bus from Kempston to Bedford and then from Bedford to Chicksands. And even I can't do that. And that was through travel training with the college. So I feel that that's been a big support. And whereas before she wouldn't get out of bed in the morning, or I'd literally be fighting with her for 2 or 3 hours phoning her school up and going, she's on her way, but she's really not happy. And they would have to come and remove her from the family car into class. She is now getting herself up, albeit sometimes late, but she gets herself up. She gets to where she needs to be. She's been working in a cafe and doing behind the scenes work, like refilling and stocking shelves and things within her college course that she's doing. And she's doing so much of that independently without first being asked. She sees something needs filling up, she's filling it up. She sees someone else struggling, she helps them. And for my daughter, that is massive. And for the first time ever, she's actually got friends. She went through school knowing a lot of people, but not really friends with a lot of people. And within the first week of this college course, everyone on that college course is friends with her. And so I just look at it and go, wow, you've come such a long way.
Do you have any fears about your daughter's future?
So I worry really badly about what happens when I'm not here anymore. Because although I'm here at the minute and I can put things in place and make sure household bills stay are paid, what happens when I'm not here? Who's going to make sure they have dinner? Who's going to make sure a dinner is cooked? Who's going to make sure the bills are paid? Who's going to make sure they've got a roof over their head? So I want to give them as much independence as I can, but at the same time, I worry that day that there's no longer myself here to support them.
Have you thought a lot about what plans you can make or what steps in terms of supported living or
So I've heard about supported living. One of my other daughters, ironically, used to do homework where she would go round people's homes. She lived in Milton Keynes. She'd go around people's homes and support them in their own homes. So there would be a lady, she would go maybe take her to a library or take her to a cafe. It was always the things that that particular person wanted to do. And up until then, I hadn't even heard that that was an option. I've also heard that there are supported living where maybe they can live in a property with other people with additional needs. They have their own rooms, but they have people, staff that are there constantly. So someone will make sure they have their meals or support them to cook their own meals. So I am now actually starting to look into that. There's actually a meeting going on the 7th of this month where I can ask questions and find out what else is available. Because again, unless you know it's out there, you don't even know what questions to ask. And the only reason I found out any of this is because of work that my other daughters that don't have additional needs have been doing. And previous work, I used to work as a care worker in a care home for young adults with autism. So by doing that job, I also found out other things that were available. By doing my current job, I found out other things that were available. So it's literally because I've put myself out there and put myself in a place where there are people that can give me the information. That's how I found out. I've not been able to go, right, I want to know this. I want to know, like, if there's any homes that they can go to. I want to know if they can get a flat on their own. I want to know if there's someone that could maybe be a mentor to them and come and support them whilst living at the family home. And because I've not known that at the time, I've had to go and seek it. And it's through my other children and through work that I've done, I've then found this information out. And I think a lot of parents, they're not in that position. They may not be in a position where they can physically go to work because their child's disability is so severe. And they may like fear getting a phone call from the school saying your child's behaviour is out of control. You need to come and get her or him.
mm-hmm.
So that's worrying for a lot of people.
Do you have any fears about your daughters becoming mothers, having themselves having special needs?
I don't personally, I don't feel that they will, just because at the minute, I think they're actually loving their independent life. So out of the daughters with additional needs, one of them has a boyfriend. He's also got additional needs, and they have a really good understanding of each other. So the boyfriend can actually get her to take a medication without there being any repercussions. He can get her to see someone else's way of thinking and reason why she might need to do something. Whereas if me as her mum was telling her, she would argue the point and probably still refuse her medication and still not do the basic things that need doing. So I feel that she's become a lot more independent, but I don't feel that having children at the moment is a thing with any of them. I am concerned because I do believe it is hereditary. There's a lot of other underlying things that can be perceived as that could be a cause of the additional need, but it's not really proven.
You sent me a lovely picture of your youngest daughter,
Yeah,
I
it's my youngest,
believe.
yeah.
Give me a word that would describe her the best.
She's very cheeky.
Lovely. And can I just say thank you so much for sharing your story with everyone. It's been really touching and heartening, and I think that a lot of the short stories shared will be with younger children. So it's a really important for everyone to hear what it's like parenting adults and young adults with additional needs. So thank you very much for sharing your story.
You're welcome.